With it being a few days since Sparxie did release, today I'm here with my first impressions on her, just as usual going over what I did think leading up to her release, and then of course after her release what I do think. Stuck grinding in Honkai Star Rail? Need stellar jades fast? We've got you covered. Head over to U7 Buy, your ultimate gaming hub for save fast and cheap in-game top-ups. Whether it's Star Rail or your other favorite games, U7 delivers instantly and players love it. Check out their Trustpilot reviews, they're actually top ranked. On the Honkai Star Rail direct top-up page, you can recharge your account in seconds. For example, 8080 Honorific shards cost $99.99 in the official store, but on U7 Buy, you can see here it's way cheaper. Just pick your server, enter UID, pay securely, and boom, your account is instantly loaded. Want extra savings? Use code PRETSR at checkout for 5% off, perfect for last minute pulls, battle passes, or surprising a friend. And here's a bonus. If you spend $80 a month on U7 Buy, you can grab the Honkai Star Rail Express Pass for only 1 cent, which is nearly free. Click on the link in my description, recharge fast, save more, and keep blazing those trails. So for starters, Sparxie leading up to her with the whole drip market stuff, seeing an SP of a character was definitely cool. I personally wasn't really that hyped, but that's just because I don't necessarily like Sparkle that much, which is crazy considering I have an E2 Sparkle since she did come out. But I actually never really was a fan of Sparkle, just wasn't my type of character, so I never really ended up liking her. So that's why from a byproduct I didn't end up liking Sparxie that much from drip market. By that meaning I just wasn't that hyped. Of course, all my hype, you guys know this, I was way more hyped for Yagwang, but hey, new path, new character, one of the two that is going to be the start of it. Definitely was going to be excited for that at least. So then leading up in the beta cycle, seeing the changes she got and stuff, seeing that she was going to be another addition to the whole like, hey, this character is kind of built as a sub-DPS but you can run her as a main DPS was cool. From a personal opinion, I really prefer that when it comes to how characters are made. I don't really like when characters are fully made to be a sub-DPS. Of course, that's also good because in one sense they focus less on damage and more on buff/debuffs while also still focusing on damage. So the quote-unquote sub-DPS stuff isn't bad, like someone like Cypher as opposed to a different sub-DPS. That's still good to have, but of course I think everyone would like a character that's a sub-DPS to also be able to function good as a main DPS without like insane levels of investment. So seeing she was going to be one of those characters actually was pretty cool. She was a character that was seeming to be a sub-DPS, of course, like her whole thing was that, but she can be a main DPS. Had different roles that were able to be achieved, but of course, as we're starting off, we only have 2 Elation characters as of a release, so the only thing you can really do until 4.2 would be run her as a main DPS. So throughout the beta cycle, seeing she was able to do both, and also seeing that she had the ability to have a whole unique quote-unquote niche with the whole punchline generation that was probably going to increase her longevity was also going to be good, especially if a future character worked a specific way of punchline generation, which I'll get into a little bit. But yeah, throughout the beta cycle, I honestly don't remember exactly the changes. I remember there were like mainly number changes, increase to Elation stuff, but that was honestly more on my part being focused on Yagwang changes more than Sparxie. But for both characters, I don't necessarily remember there being negative changes. I remember most of them were positive, as they started a bit wonky, but they did get changes to help them. I think the biggest thing I remember was her actual team crit damage per punchline was increased. So W, more buffing for the team right before she did release, or at least very close to it. Well, not close to her actual release, but the patch, that's close enough. You know what I mean? So I do mostly remember them having buffs to them, which was good because again, they started more on the weaker side. They definitely wouldn't be as strong as they were if they didn't actually go through all these beta cycle changes. So I do remember the beta changes being on the better side. So now we get closer to a release, we see she is going to be, again, the main DPS for now, the sub-DPS probably for later, having capabilities of buffing the team in base K with crit damage, for Elation team specifically having the Omega punchline generation, and then with her early vertical investment actually able to buff the team more, with her light cone being able to increase the team's Elation, and then her E1 being able to increase everyone's all-type res pen by the amount of punchline you do own, which to max her trace in kit, you just need 10 punchline to get the full 80% crit damage, and then for the 15% all-type res pen in E1, you needed 10 anyway, so regardless, you didn't really change gameplay. So on top of playing her normally, you also gain 15% all-type res pen for an early investment, and we know how good all-type res pen is, so that was good as well. And then finally followed by her release. So I've tested her in practically every single mode, chill bosses, non-chill bosses, just because the Sparxie boss that is out in Anomaly and the first half of MLC that is made for Elation, but at least there was lag aside, and I don't necessarily use the turbulence buff ever just because I am a zero cycler, but she has been performing really well. On her best team of Sparxie herself, Sparkle, Yagwang, Yagwang and then sustain, or is sustainless Chibi or Cypher, she always is outputting a really good amount of damage. Of course, when it comes to any Elation shield bosses, she is able to do the mechanic easily. And then outside of Yagwang force proc, all she is able to generate an insane amount of punchline, so you're able to get like 40, 50, 60 plus punchline depending on how you do play, which is also really good for those outside of Yagwang ultimate instant Elation skills. I do like her performance on all of them. I definitely do think as a main DPS she is performing very well. Unfortunately, this was predicted and you can already tell from all the calcs we did see before she did release, but without Yagwang she does get a pretty big difference when it comes to clearing. Like, of course, at early investment she can't necessarily zero cycle unless you have a really good setup. The difference Yagwang does make is insane, but that is more true to the actual whole team philosophy where it's more Elation characters equal better. I mean, come on, the whole punchline generation, and then even she has a trace that gives more thrill based off the amount of Elation characters, which we can't even have fully fulfilled just because there's not 3 Elation characters. So when we are able to get that, she's going to be able to get 4 thrills by using her ultimate and even more punchline through her ultimate, which is actually hilarious because the whole throw mechanic is good just because it's a free skill point consumption. So of course that's going to be great, especially when she does get moved into the whole sub-DPS role. And it's very blatant that she's going to have that role where future teams are probably not going to have someone like Sparkle to generate you a bunch of skill points. Hence why the whole throw that you gain from ultimate goes from 1-1 to a whole 4. So you can actually just end up holding a bunch of those thrill to offset the skill point consumption. And then whatever skill points you have on top of that, then even better. And then if the future Elation team is also very skill point positive, quote unquote, then you'll have free skill points to just spam for a Sparxie to consume for more punchline and overall more damage. So yeah, her damage is very good, especially with Yagwang. Sustain this, her damage is actually just really shockingly good. Elation skills go crazy. I'm having a good amount of fun with it, but I did end up testing her so much to the point where I am actually honestly kind of tired of using her. These longer animation things where something keeps going on, like Caster's Dragon Breath, sequence ults like Akron, or something like Face Shot as well, and now Sparxie's whole back shots or whatever the hell is happening in her thing, I don't know. It's a very hit or miss thing for me just because sometimes I won't necessarily mind it. Like, I'm actually not that tired of using Caster's Dragon sometimes. It really depends on the day, but Sparxie, I'm kind of tired of spamming that skill and seeing the animation over and over again. But yeah, outside of my whole enjoyment using her, she was fun for how much I was testing, and she performed very well on her teams, especially sustain this. I feel like with the whole extra hits you do get as opposed to non-Elation characters with the whole AHA instant, especially in the future with more Elation characters increasing the speed of AHA instant, I think sustainless teams with Elation besides Break might be one of the best sustainless teams you can run, just assuming they have cases where they can do good damage outside of the Elation skill, like Sparxie can with their enhanced basic attack once you consume all the skill points, and then the Elation skill with the extra hit. And then with the future characters increasing the speed of AHA instant, it gets to act more, potentially get a whole 1 or maybe even 2 depending on how fast a character can be in the future. That is going to add up to a lot of damage. I definitely think sustainless potential is going to be great, which you already know how big of a damage increase sustainless can be. So generally, I am very satisfied with the performance as a main DPS, and funny enough, I'm just going to talk about this a bit just because it is unrelatable. As you guys maybe know, my Yagwang is E6. Of course, I've tested her with E0 Yagwang, don't worry, that's mainly where my opinions are coming from. But with my personal E6 Yagwang, I ran Sparxie as a sub-DPS, and hey, that punchline generation for every time it's outside of Yagwang's ult, very helpful. Before, Yagwang can still reach like 1, 2, maybe 3 million on the non-ultimate proc AHA instant, because of course a lot of her dupes focus on the forced AHA proc. But outside of not having Sparxie, usually you can only get punchline to maybe like 10 or 11, assuming there's no boss mechanic or stage mechanic that gives you punchline like the new enemies. So usually outside of the AHA instant force proc from her ultimate, the damage would of course not be that crazy. Sparxie is able to generate me a crap ton more, especially when she has like a sub-DPS build with speed, because the team is really funny. So it's the standard team of Sparxie, Sparkle, and then Yagwang, and then a sustain or sustainless, which in my case I do sustainless. But the way I'd play it is I would use all the skill points. Sparxie gets full access to that because Yagwang only really needs to consume the skill point anytime she needs to re-output her skill. And then all the extra skill points that Sparkle did generate was wasted because the buffs would go onto Yagwang, since that's what I did for my main DPS Yagwang. But the skill points, I just had a bunch, so I never ran out. But now Sparxie would be able to consume all those, massively increasing punchline, and then any anytime an AHA instant outside of the force proc AHA instant from Yagwang's ultimate has like 40 plus punchline, and now Yagwang's damage outside of that is very good. So overall, I definitely do think she would be an overall upgrade to my main DPS Yagwang. The damage on the force proc AHA instant and overall stuff is less, but because of the non-ultimate AHA instance, that having an insane amount of more punchline and doing more damage, I'm pretty confident, and especially with the damage contribution that Sparxie does have, it overall does perform better as a team. So yeah, as a sub DPS in that just more unrelatable case, she has definitely been cooking. But yeah, I did my summons for her. I got Blade at like 20 pity and I did 50 more pulls. I held off and I have a guaranteed light cone just waiting. As I did mention, I tested her a lot to the point that I am honestly kind of tired of using her. I think in that case, me personally, this is mainly just because of the character coming right after, which is Asheville. Despite all the stuff like doom and gloom about his changes, I'm still pretty bummed about V1, V2, 2, V3, V4, but he is in the state enough where I'm still happy. And my main reason of probably going for E6 on him is just because he's Asheville. But this is not an Asheville video, that is for a future video, so stay tuned if you're an Asheville fan. But yeah, because he is next, I am actually going to hold off on pulling her, just because if I did get her, cool, my Yagwang main DPS team even is going to have a good increase. But one, I do not have the materials, just because again I'm focusing on Asheville. It would lower my odds of having a good shot at E6 Asheville, and I'd have to spend more, so that case as well. And even if I did get her, I probably won't have as much fun as I did when testing her in the beginning, just because I got tired of using her very quickly. So my first impressions of her, very strong main DPS, actually seeming to be really solid as a sub DPS too, with my little unrelatable case. So in the future, when we do get another main DPS for Elation, which we probably will in 4.2, her role is gonna be really good. And supposedly with the 4.2 anniversary character, it seems like one of them are going to be able to charge ultimate based off punchline generation, and who is the best at doing that? Sparxie. So it is very safe to assume she's going to be on that team, and if she's performing as good as a quote-unquote sub DPS now, when she does get her actual proper team where you run a team with full synergy and stuff, and when it's performing with the main DPS on there, I am going to be 100% sure it's going to absolutely cook. So in all her roles, I am very satisfied with the performance. Maybe I'll pull her on a rerun if she does rerun at a good time, or will she rerun with another character that I maybe want to go crazy for dupes wise? We'll see. Again, very satisfied. Sub DPS, main DPS, all the performances are good. All mode, she is doing very, very good. So W release character, I am just a bit tired of seeing her and her animations. And that does bring my first impressions to a close. If you guys did pull for Sparxie, definitely comment down below, 1, your investment, and 2, how much you're enjoying her. I'm sure most people that did pull for her are necessarily satisfied. Maybe they're not fully satisfied, but trust me, once the main DPS for her does release, as a sub DPS, she is definitely going to do wonders for that main DPS. I am very confident that that's going to happen. Anyway, if you did find this video helpful or enjoyable, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all the types of stock content, and I'll see you later. Peace out.